KCBS, in partnership with UCSF Health, presents As Prescribed, a weekly conversation with leading medical experts from UCSF Medical Center and UCSF Benioff Children's Hospitals.
Hello and welcome to As Prescribed. I'm Kathy Novak. If you or your child were having a high-risk operation, would it make you feel a little bit better if you knew the surgeon had a chance to practice before the procedure? Well, the UCSF Center for Advanced 3D Plus Technologies is giving doctors that opportunity. Joining us today to explain how is UCSF Pediatric Cardiologist and co-founder and co-director of the center, Dr. Shafkat Anwar. Dr. Anwar, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be on with you.
So tell us a little bit about the work you're doing with 3D printing technology and how it's changing the way you treat patients.
Sure, thank you. So here at UCSF, we're a referral center, and we have the privilege of treating patients from all walks of life and all kinds of complexity. So we tend to get pretty high-risk surgeries that get sent to us from all over. And a few years ago, some of us partnered up and through a grant from our chancellor's office, we founded the Center for Advanced 3D Plus Technologies. Essentially, the 3D Plus technology that I help run is a center where we use some high-end technologies that include 3D printing and other visualization systems such as AR or augmented reality, virtual or mixed reality, to really take medical imaging to the next level, to plan some of the procedures that we have for our patients here.
And the next level, really the next dimension. So we're talking here about taking it beyond, say, an X-ray to something that doctors can hold in their hand. How significant is that?
Well, of course, I'm biased, but the doctors that I work with tell us that it's kind of a game changer. As you know, Kathy, in medicine, especially when we're working with diagnostics, we're always sort of recreating reality. And by that, I mean, if you were to come in and have an echocardiogram or a CT scan of any of your body, usually what we get is a stack of two-dimensional images. So imagine a piece of paper, and you're trying to reconstruct an entire stack of pieces of paper that have images on them. And as physicians, through years of experience and training, we develop that skill. But when we go to apply this information in a real life patient who obviously is a four-dimensional person, 3 dimensions plus moving through time, this becomes much more challenging. So with what I do is specialize in congenital heart disease. Children with heart problems often need surgeries. So our surgeons are constantly recreating images that they see in their mind, whether it's from CT or MRI. But what we're doing at our 3D Plus Center is essentially taking the mystery out of medical imaging as much as possible. So what we literally do is make a replica of the patient's anatomy. Again, using the example of heart surgery, we're able to do a heart scan and then literally print out your heart if you were to have heart surgery, so that the surgeon doing your procedure will be able to practice before the procedure itself. It's kind of like taking a swing at a batting cage or going to the driving range and practicing your golf swing before a big game.
And so crucial with the patients you're talking about, right? Because they're kids with tiny hearts.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I brought along one of our models with us here. Everything we print is to scale. So this is from one of our one-day-old patients. And you can see I can hold the entire heart in the palm of my hand. So our tiniest patients, their hearts are about the size of walnuts. And the blood vessels that go into the heart or come out of the heart, they're about just a few strands of hair wide. Some are about the size of, spaghetti noodles. And they come with, unfortunately, very complex problems. Some of our children, we have to do very complex reconstructions within the heart to reroute blood flow. So we're working in very small spaces, and a misstep here or there could lead to catastrophic consequences. Which is why we feel that, again, using a model to practice on, and these things are compressible, they're cuttable, you can suture it, you can practice on 100 of these if you'd like before going into surgery, we feel will lead to better outcomes.
And I made reference to that at the beginning of this, that ability to practice, so crucial not only for the doctors, but also for the families and really understanding what's going on with their kids.
Absolutely. That's one of our core missions here is to use these same technologies in our patient and family counseling. Often what we hear from our families is that they have to make some very difficult decisions. And I really empathize with this. I've had family members who have been ill, and having to make complex decisions is difficult, especially when you don't really understand, in our case, let's say the anatomy or the surgeries that you're being asked to decide on. And sometimes we're operating on children, and families are being asked when their kids are just a couple of days old to decide on surgeries that'll impact them for the rest of their lives. So, as much as possible, we use our 3D printed models or our electronic models to go over the surgeries with our families and really engage with them in a kind of a shared decision making process.
And you're bringing together some of these technologies that were really born in the Bay Area. It's something that we can do well here. Some of what you're doing is pretty unique, right? You don't find this around the country. Is this something that you think other centers may eventually be able to implement as well?
So of course I'm biased. I work with these technologies every single day, and I really think these should become standard of care because the surgeons who are working with us, not just in cardiology, but across the board, whether it's in general surgery, neurosurgery, or interventional fields such as interventional cardiology or radiology that are not even surgical subspecialties, but still interventional. Time and time again, we hear from these providers that these 3D printed models are helping them so much that they can't imagine going back to a period where they didn't have them. And there are several other centers across the United States that have 3D printing centers. I think what's probably a little unique about UCSF is that we're combining not just the print, but also the electronic modeling. So about half of what we do is physical printed models, like what I was showing you before. But the other half of our work is using these 3D files in creative ways, such as loading our 3D models onto a display system in mixed reality, and then having the images basically pop up like a hologram. And again, our surgeons are doing this on a daily basis. They'll put on 3D glasses, have the images kind of pop up right in front of them, and then be able to manipulate them in 3D and 4D. And what we've been starting to do recently is taking these technologies right into the operating room. So we're still early in our experience, but we use something called intraoperative EchoPixel. EchoPixel is a company right here in the Bay Area. And using their display system, we can display the patient's CT scan as the surgeon is operating. And the surgeon just needs to look up from the operating field, and without any specialized equipment, the CT scan will just pop up like a medical hologram. And as the patient is being operated on, the surgeon can also manipulate the images to get much more precise about where they're actually intervening on.
Very cool stuff. Dr. Anwar, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Shafkat Anwar is co-founder and co-director of the Center for Advanced 3D Plus Technologies at UCSF. And I'm Kathy Novak. Thanks so much for joining us on As Prescribed.
As Prescribed, every Thursday at 1:30, right here on the Bay Area's news station, All News 106.9 at AM 740 KCBS, and streaming on the Odyssey app. The proceeding was sponsored by UCSF.